Something unexpected happened while I was brushing my teeth. The white toothpaste foam turned light pink. My heart skipped a beat. Oh no, my gums are bleeding again. Why does the bleeding stop after a short while? Because under normal physiological conditions, when tissue is injured, the body's coagulation system is activated. This causes the blood to clot at the site of injury, stopping the bleeding. Blood coagulation is simply referred to as clotting. It is the process by which blood changes from a flowing liquid to a non-flowing gel-like clot. In the coagulation process, the participation of coagulation factors is essential. Coagulation factors are substances in the plasma and tissues that are directly involved in blood clotting. There are currently 14 known coagulation factors, as shown in the table. The coagulation process involves 3 stages. Stage 1, formation of prothrombin activator. Stage 2, formation of thrombin. Stage 3, formation of fibrin. Prothrombin activator is a complex of factor XA, factor V, calcium ions, Ca, and platelet factor 3, PF3. Its formation first requires the activation of factor X. Depending on the initiating conditions and factors involved in the formation of XA, coagulation can be divided into 2 pathways. One is the intrinsic pathway, and the other is the extrinsic pathway. The intrinsic pathway is initiated by factor 12. When blood comes into contact with a foreign surface, particularly collagen fibers beneath the vascular endothelium, factor 12 is activated. Factor XIIA can activate prekallikrein, turning it into kallikrein. Kallikrein, in turn, can further activate factor 12. Through this positive feedback loop, a large amount of factor XIIA is formed. The primary function of factor XIIA is to activate factor 11 into factor Ca. Factor Ca, with the participation of calcium ions, converts factor 9 into factor IXA. Factor IXA then forms a complex with factor 8, calcium ions, and PF3. This complex can activate factor X into factor XA. It is important to note that factor 8 is a cofactor that significantly accelerates the activation of factor X. All the factors involved in the above process are present within the plasma inside the blood vessels. Hence, it is called the intrinsic pathway. The extrinsic pathway is initiated by factor 3. When tissues are injured and blood vessels are ruptured, the tissues release factor 3 into the blood. Factor 3 forms a complex with calcium ions and factor 7 from the plasma, which activates factor X. Factor 3 is a phospholipoprotein, widely present in extravascular tissues. It is particularly abundant in the brain, lungs, and placental tissue. After the prothrombin activator is formed, the next step is to activate prothrombin into thrombin, also known as factor IIA. Factor IIA is a multifunctional coagulation factor. Its main function is to cleave fibrinogen. It converts fibrinogen, a tetramer, into fibrin monomers. Simultaneously, factor IIA, with the help of calcium ions, also activates factor 13. Factor XIIA causes the fibrin monomers to polymerize into insoluble fibrin polymers. These fibrin polymers weave together to form a mesh. This mesh traps red blood cells, forming a blood clot. Thus, the coagulation process is completed. In physiological hemostasis, both the intrinsic and extrinsic pathways are activated. There are a few key points to emphasize. First, the coagulation process is a positive feedback mechanism. Each enzymatic step has an amplifying effect. Once triggered, it rapidly proceeds in a sequential cascade, like a waterfall, until completion. The time it takes for a clot to form in a normal person is 5 to 15 minutes, test tube method. This time is called the clotting time. Second, calcium ions play a procoagulant role in multiple steps of coagulation. Moreover, they are easy to manipulate. Therefore, they can be used clinically to promote coagulation, e.g., by supplementing calcium, or to anticoagulate, e.g., by removing calcium. Third, the coagulation process is essentially a series of cascading enzymatic reactions. Each step is closely linked. If one link is blocked, the entire coagulation process can be affected or even halted. For example, in patients deficient in factor VIII, 9, or 11, the coagulation process is slow. Minor trauma often leads to prolonged bleeding. These conditions are called hemophilia A, B, and C, respectively. This is the blood coagulation relay race. It is precisely this process that allows the bleeding from my gums to stop quickly after brushing. Thank you.